Hello, greetings, good afternoon. For those of you who I haven't met, my name is Bob Saba. I am Timoria's husband. We're very grateful, we're thrilled to have you with us today. This is the start of something new and very important to Timoria, to be the next state representative for District 68. Today, you'll learn more about Timoria's, how she got here and how she wants to really help everyone in this community. So without further ado, I welcome Timoria to the stage.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Timoria McQueen Saba, and I am so excited to be running to be your next representative of District 68. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy weekend to spend time with me and my family today. I know that you're all busy with lots of commitments, especially on Saturdays, but I promise I'll get you out of here early enough to go buy all the bread and milk you can before the 1 inch of snow allegedly arrives tonight. Let me introduce you to my family. Bob, did Bob disappear? You met Bob, and now I'm going to embarrass Grayson and Harper. Those are my two daughters back there. And my sister-in-law, Karen. She surprised us by flying down from Massachusetts yesterday. Thank you for always supporting me. I love you all dearly. I'd like to also introduce you to someone very special who's become a new family member. My campaign manager, Mr. Jared Daig. Where's Jared? Is he over here? Is Jared in here? He ran away? He's still working? All right. Well, I really appreciate Jared's dedication to ensuring that we run a great campaign which truly represents all the people of District 68. I thank him for his service on the Fayette County Democratic Committee and also on the Fayette Young Democrats as well. Jared is an example of how important it is to engage our youth and young adults in the political process and not be afraid to get involved. His passion for politics is inspiring, and I'm proud to call him a friend. Thanks. Before I tell you about myself, I have to take time to acknowledge someone really special that the community didn't get enough time to really enjoy as a representative, and that's Representative Tish Negisi. Tish won this seat during the 2022 election and unfortunately died just 2 months after she took office. Yeah. From my conversations with those who knew her, it seems like we would have been great allies and probably besties, as she was also a passionate health advocate and worked relentlessly to find resources and support for the community. I truly hope that I can help complete some of the chapters of her political story. When our family first landed in Fayette County in 2023, we knew it was a special place. Not being native Georgians, everyone had opinions on where we should move, and usually they suggested north of Atlanta. In fact, our search for the right place for us as a family, I was explicitly told countless times not to move south of the city. Well, if you get to know me well enough, you'll know if you tell me not to do something, I'm going to go explore it. And I just got more and more curious about, well, what's going on down there? Let me find out for myself. We had explored Marietta, Johns Creek, Roswell, Sandy Springs, all lovely places, but never one was quite the right fit. I remember asking someone in a Facebook group, because I had joined about 1 million Facebook groups all over Georgia. And in one of them I asked, hey, is there a town in Georgia like the one in the show Sweet Magnolias? And all the comments were pretty funny and we had a bunch of laughs. But I really wanted to know, is there a place, regardless of what you look like, your age, your profession, or whatever brought you to that town, Be it by birth or transplanted, people are kind, respect one another, and want to work together to preserve their best quality of life. I will never forget the day we drove from West Cobb to look at homes in Fayetteville, the longest drive of my life. We were on the last of several scouting trips from Massachusetts to Georgia, and I made Bob take all the back roads, which he hates, but I had to see it all and get the lay of the land. As soon as we crossed into Tyrone, we all took a look at each other in the minivan and said, this feels like it. We drove through and we explored the beauty and tranquility of Tyrone, with the girls admiring the farms and the animals along the way. Then the hopping scene over at Trilith, the bustling shopping district, and yes, the traffic in Peachtree City, which reminded us of Boston, of course, and all the other major cities we've lived in. And of course, we ventured down to the quaint, welcoming downtown district in Fayetteville. Everywhere we looked, lakes and ponds, parks, golf cart paths, walking trails, farms. We savored the warmth of the sun on our skin in that spring, a stark contrast to the still frigid temperatures up north. It felt so special here. We ventured further north to Union City, Fairburn, and South Fulton as well. These areas reminded me so much of my hometown, Baltimore, and other areas in the Mid-Atlantic. And while we're on the subject of where I'm from, because it's going to come up a lot in this campaign, I want to let everybody know that my mother and every woman on the maternal side of my family, except for me and my daughters, were born on a sharecropping farm in North Carolina. I have a deep understanding of the agricultural South and the complicated layers of race, class, and politics. Like all of the places we've lived, District 68 is diverse in everything. District 68 has everything from mobile homes to apartments to estates. District 68 represents the diversity not only of the state of Georgia, but of our entire country. This community has welcomed us with open arms from day one. You've invited us to worship with you, share a meal with you. You've given helpful suggestions on everything from the best times and routes to drive to the city, to which Publix is your favorite one, and even which gun range I should try to find and go to. Seriously. The first person I met, though, after we settled in Fayetteville, was the legendary Miss Daryl Anderson, who's working down at Fayetteville City Hall. I'll never forget, because it was a sweltering July day, and as I walked into the cool air of the City Hall lobby, I admired its thoughtful and modern design. I walked up to the front desk, and Miss Daryl, who was busy doing paperwork, she looked right up at me and she said, "Welcome. We've been waiting for you." I hadn't introduced myself yet or told her who I was there to meet. Yet already she made me feel at home. And not just that, but there was a purpose for me being here. I think about that every day. We've been waiting for you. Because I have come to realize that I was also waiting for all of you. I told Miss Daryl that I was there to meet City Councilman Joe Clark. He'll stand over there in the corner. If you've seen our Facebook pages over the past couple of years, you know me and Joe became fast friends, and as evidenced by all of our paparazzi photos together at various events. Anyway, for this day, for this meeting, Joe had allocated just 15 minutes, which I find insulting now looking back on it, but that's okay. 4 hours later, we were still gabbing away. And at the end of our meeting, he said, "Well, Timoria, whatever you choose to get into in Fayetteville or beyond, I know that you'll be ready day one." I jotted his statement down in a journal so I would never forget it. In our time here, we've often asked ourselves, is this for real? Are these people really this kind? It's these subtle ways of making people feel like they are truly part of the fabric of a community, no matter how long they've lived there, which are vital to the success of a community. And yes, we have found our community to be very kind. And now, of course, we know not everything and everyone is perfect, but we have found as a family that our neighbors, educators, first responders, and community not only offer help, but will often go the extra mile when they can. A perfect example are my next door neighbors, who brought flowers the day we moved in, blessed us with these delicious cookie boxes during the holidays, and when she found out that I was diagnosed with Lyme disease, immediately reached out and connected me with a friend who also been through it. I once even had an allergic reaction to something I ate, and as the ambulance pulled up, my neighbor was calling on the phone asking if I was okay. Then there's my friend, Miss Andrea Ferguson, who I met volunteering at the Sandy Creek PTO. Andrea is the definition of community spirit, always offering to lend a hand when and wherever she can. We, along with several other parents, Angelica, I'm looking at you, we bonded as chaperones on the Sandy Creek Fine Arts trip to Washington, D.C. last March. And if you have ever chaperoned one of these trips, you understand there's just an unspoken bond after that. You've all survived a certain trauma that you can't quite put into words, but at least the kids had a good time, right? And as for me, I can tell you, you have truly not lived until you've experienced sitting next to the bus bathroom from Fayetteville to DC and back. Senator Kenya Wicks also checked in with me regularly to ask how I was feeling and how she could help. And she was in the thick of campaigning back then, but always made time to send me weekly texts. Joe took it to the next level by reaching out to a Lyme literate doctor to better understand what I was going through. I had all these people in my inner circle who knew that I was really upset, that I couldn't engage in the way I was used to as an advocate when I moved here. But it was imperative that I gave my body time to heal. Fighting Lyme disease wasn't the first time I had a difficult health issue to overcome. I have had the most unusual journey into politics. For several years, I worked in retail cosmetics and eventually became a professional makeup artist living in New York, a demanding but dream job that I had envisioned since I was a teenager. Then when Bob and I got married and later found out we were expecting, we were so excited. And I thought, like a lot of people, that I would take a leave and return to work in a couple of months. But that was not the way my story went. Grayson was born in April of 2010. The night before she was born, I had the best sleep of my life. And I always say, God probably knew, well, parents never sleep again, really, and definitely never sleep the same way. So here's a little gift for you. The next morning, I had contractions really badly, and we called my OBGYN, Dr. B, and he told us to come into the hospital. 27 long hours later, Grayson was born, but things didn't go quite as planned. Just a few moments after she was born, a nurse quickly removed her from my arms. Machines in the room started beeping faster, louder. Bob and Grayson were removed from my room and taken to another part of the hospital. Dr. B explained to me that I was hemorrhaging, bleeding with no end in sight. He then spent 45 minutes massaging my uterus to try to get it to contract and stop the bleeding. That didn't work. He leaned next to me closely on a stool, held my hand, and said that he had to call in a special surgeon. He said, Timoria, when the surgeon comes in, he's going to tell you some very scary things, but don't listen to him. Focus, stay focused on Grayson. And he was right. When the surgeon walked in, he looked me up and down and he said, you're in really bad shape, kid. I don't know if you're going to live or die, but I will do my best to save your life. I was given blood transfusions, Prepped and taken into surgery, my eyes were so heavy. I was still bleeding, and I began vomiting on myself multiple times on the way to the operating room. I felt myself blacking out, but a voice kept saying over and over again, "Stay awake, stay awake. You can do this." The operating room was cold. My body, in its weathered state, was exposed for everyone to see. My dignity was shattered, and my body felt so violated. But all I could think about was getting back to Grayson and Bob. Before we were separated from each other, I looked Grayson in the eyes, and I promised her that she would not be a motherless child. But after so many years of doing my work to advocate for mothers and families, I know now, of course, that is a promise no one can guarantee to keep. My work collaborations have often included many families in which the mother or birthing person didn't survive, and I have often ridden a fine line between feeling guilty to be in their presence, serving as a constant reminder of their loss, while also standing side by side with them as a survivor, fighting together for the stories of these tragedies to be told, and advocating for legislation to address disparities in outcomes. My surgery was over 3 hours long, and I had to be awake for the whole thing. There was a monitor over my head where I watched the surgeon's fingers weave back and forth inside my body. And he would ask me, "Do you feel this?" And I would answer yes or no. And the answer was usually no, which was he was happy about, which meant the surgery was going well. I was left in critical condition. And while the majority of the hospital staff thought I should recover in the ICU, Dr. B said, "No, Timoria needs to be with her baby. We're going back to labor and delivery now." Throughout that tumultuous day, Dr. B had been my biggest advocate. And looking back, he taught me a lot about what it means to advocate for people. It often means leaning on your faith while also making an educated calculation of risk versus reward, often putting yourself on the line for the greater good. And more than anything, in my experience, it's getting used to being the sole voice in a room full of others with a different opinion, willing to be criticized, ridiculed, or alienated for doing what you feel is not the popular thing, not the agreeable or go along to get along thing, but the right thing. And as you all can see, I survived. Thank you. However, I was forever changed by the trauma I suffered. Dr. B recognized in subsequent conversations and appointments that I was displaying the signs of post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. I began seeing a therapist, but she was a terrible fit for me. I remember back then not doing a ton of research and just taking her Ivy League credentials in close proximity to my home as enough to begin a therapeutic relationship. Boy, was I wrong. My sessions were horrible. Every session felt like I was a suspect being interrogated for a crime. There was no warmth, there was no empathy, or even the delicate camaraderie that many successful therapeutic relationships often have. I would usually leave feeling much worse seeing her than when I even began. So eventually I stopped going. And I was hanging in there, or so I thought. About 13 months after Grayson was born, I met up with a friend who has a daughter the same age, and we took the girls to get frozen yogurts. I didn't feel well that day, but didn't think much of it, and excused myself to go to the restroom. Long story short, I was bleeding heavily again. I ran out into the main area of the frozen yogurt shop with blood coming down my legs. And me and my friend, we loaded the girls up in the strollers and rushed them up the street to where my doctor's office luckily was just 2 blocks up the street. I was transported via ambulance to the hospital, where later I was told by the attending physician that I had lost my baby. Bob and I didn't even know that we were pregnant again. I was devastated and once again left to process another traumatic experience in just a year since the hemorrhage. I decided this time to do more research when looking for another therapist. I know firsthand how hard it is to find the time to look for someone who first specializes in your particular issue. Then you have to find out if they're in your network or not, and if not, well, can you afford to pay the leftover? Then, after all that, do you even have the time to take off of work to show up to do the healing? Resources were scarce back then, and very few were talking about birth trauma or postpartum mental health. Currently here in Georgia, resources in many areas are still very scarce, unaffordable, or exist but aren't easily accessible. Perhaps even worse, the stigma surrounding mental health prevents people from seeking help. Think about when you ask around for referrals for things like a haircut or an auto repair person. Many of us feel free, we ask a friend or we post on social media for these things. Then we read reviews, go on Insta, TikTok, look at examples of their work, right? But how many of us feel comfortable asking a friend something like this? Hey girl, I'm feeling a little depressed and psychotic today. Know any good therapists in town? Really hard to do. And often, due to work or school constraints, lack of childcare, insurance coverage, and affordability, we neglect to apply that same diligence to our health. And then when we do, like I said, it's exhausting. The obstacles include mountains of paperwork, verification requirements, and then the finale, the long wait times for a provider. Trust me, I get it, I've lived it too. And these are just some of the reasons I'm running to be your next representative. After I was able to overcome the mental and physical trauma I suffered, I realized quickly I was no longer going back to my old job. I knew that there were probably so many families struggling with similar issues and not able to find resources, and I wanted to do something about it. I started writing a blog and sharing my story publicly, not knowing what, if anything, to expect. The first day I hit publish, I was feeling a little scared, like, oh my gosh, did I just do this? But I was relieved, but also exposed. I had just told the world my truth. Now what? Well, within about 5 minutes, I looked on Twitter and I had, the reply notification, and I click on it, and there's a tweet, and it says this: Timoria, I also had a birth trauma, but I live on a rural farm in South Africa. Can you help me? I think about that tweet every single day, because in that moment, I remember thinking that when someone asks me this question, I always want the answer to be yes. Yes, I can help you. Yes, I have resources for you. Yes, I will support you. And no matter how difficult your walk is, I will walk it with you. Soon after that, I began reaching out to my legislators to ask them to partner with me and others to support more family and maternal health initiatives. And as many of you may have experienced, I often didn't get a response, or if I did, it was kind of like one of those generic canned responses they send to anybody about anything. But I didn't give up. I pitched an article to HuffPost and was immediately accepted as a regular contributor on the platform. The first article I ever wrote was called "What We're Not Talking About: Maternal Deaths and Mortality in America." I gave birth to our daughter in this time. Now, this was a much better outcome. No offense to you, Gigi, it is what it is. It was still long, Harper, 19 hours. I it's like a rotisserie in there, just cooking and didn't want to come out. I also started connecting with health organizations, began lobbying for bills, speaking at conferences, and was appointed to several advisory boards and commissions. I've worked with schools, first responders, and elected officials, all dedicated to improving public health outcomes at the local, state, and federal levels. I have built coalitions with parents, representing students and families who differ in socioeconomic status, race, ethnicities, abilities, gender, and identity. I created safe spaces for students, parents, educators, first responders, and elected officials to meet face to face so that everyone could look each other in the eye, listen, and learn from one another. I've hosted town forums and sponsored programs for youth. And if you have ever been a part of those efforts, please know that I carry you and all that I've learned from you every day, and I'm honored to have earned your trust, especially in handling confidential and highly sensitive personal information, which was required to deliver initiatives where everyone felt like they had a voice and a real seat at the table. This work was not easy. I was often the only or one of few voices in these rooms willing to call out an injustice, an insensitive remark, or a harmful policy, but I never regretted it. As you process all the work I just described to you, I want you to think about something. Statistically speaking, after surviving 2 birth and pregnancy complications, I'm probably not supposed to be here. I am living proof of what access to care, resources, and physicians who saw me through an unbiased lens looks like, and it looks like survival. And I want that for every family in Georgia. Thank you. And don't get me wrong, I've had some terrible experiences too. We'll talk about those another time, some doozies. But please remember, I was a makeup artist who became a wife, who then became a mother who survived a trauma, who then became an advocate, who then became a policy strategist, who then went on to write legislation that was passed into law. A particular piece of legislation called the Act to End Inequities in Maternal Health formed a commission, which then went on to pass several bills, including expanding access to care, mandating insurance coverage for doulas and postpartum home visits, and several programs to address disparities. I am not an attorney. I am not a doctor. I am not a career politician. I am and will always be an advocate. And I wouldn't have been able to do any of it, thank you. I wouldn't have been able to do any of it if I had not planned well, been a good negotiator, been bold or confrontational or direct about addressing the needs of families on the local, state, and federal levels. So when and if you hear people trying to use these words as negatives, don't let them. If someone comes up to you and says, "Oh, Timoria is so direct, she's so confrontational," say, "Yep, I know." But also tell them, I'm empathetic and kind, and I'm a really good listener. So now, my fellow Georgians, here's my plan for you. You may have noticed that our campaign slogan is Ready Day One. Ready Day One is a bold statement. I'm a bold girl, so I'm up for it. And it doesn't mean I know everything. It's my commitment to you. I am ready to share my knowledge with you. I'm ready to share my resources. I'm ready to learn about you, and I'm ready to learn from you. I am ready to be a champion for our community. I am walking into your state house on day one as your rep with my legislation written and ready to submit. If you got the sheets, does everyone have the sheets with the, yeah. So on this sheet is 6 pieces of legislation. I've actually written 8 bills, but me, Jared, and Lauren, who's not here, we were fighting over which ones to fit on there. Jared usually wins these arguments, by the way. I'm the easygoing one, right, Jared? He's like, yeah, no. Before we get into these things, there was a lot of talk and rumors before I announced that I was running. People asking why I wasn't at many public events, certain meetings, or posting on social media. Well, what they don't know is that advocacy doesn't always look public and in your face. I was already working for you since the day I got here. Before we moved here, I researched issues like conservation, food insecurity, affordability, and of course, healthcare. And as you know, when our family first landed here, I was eager to get involved in the community and find ways to use my skills. But I hadn't been feeling well for quite some time, and I blamed it on our move. Within a couple of months, though, I became incapacitated and was later diagnosed with Lyme disease. I was devastated, but my doctor assured me that if I followed a strict protocol, including a very fun diet of no gluten, no dairy, and no sugar, that I would be well enough to resume my advocacy work. During that time, I met Mrs. Diana Galloway. Diana is the founder of Compassion Ministries Food Pantry in Fayetteville. We became fast friends, but more so, I was deeply impressed by her tireless efforts to alleviate food insecurity since COVID began. Diana also overcame the closing of her food pantry and was able to quickly rebound and find another location within weeks right before the holiday season. As our friendship grew and I volunteered at the pantry, I spoke to Diana about the need for state or federal funding to ensure the financial stability of not only her pantry, but all the pantries in the county. I researched and discovered that food insecurity had increased in Fayette County 60% over a 5-year period. Now, I like to translate percentages into people. This meant that over 7,000 adults and children in our county are going hungry every single day. And when I shared this with people, they often were shocked that our community was so heavily affected. I created a survey in English and Spanish to gather the demographics of those utilizing the pantry. We had an almost 100% response rate to our survey, which is very rare. Next, I drafted a federal funding proposal for food pantries and submitted it during the 2024 appropriations cycle. In addition to that proposal, I started drafting my initial legislation addressing conservation, mental and physical health, education, housing, and voting rights. I have completed my legislative agenda before the primary so that you can feel a part of this process. I have always been inclusive in my work, and it's important to me that you are a part of this process, and I value your feedback. So let's talk a little bit now about these bills. Number 1, the Georgia Moms Act. Now, you know, after everything I've been through and what you just heard, I was not going to move here and not confront the maternal health crisis here in Georgia. The March of Dimes recently gave Georgia an F grade in maternal and infant health, and we consistently rank at the bottom of the country in maternal and infant health. Not on my watch, not anymore. We are going to expand access to care and address the racial and geographical disparities head on and turn that F into an A. Thank you. Number 2, the Community Protection Act. Now, that data center has been a doozy, you know? And I know that the development and the data center in general, it's been a source of contention. My bill wants to give residents veto power over what happens in their backyards, while ensuring that existing entities, because we can't do anything about the things that are here, but we can ensure that existing entities do meet environmental requirements and protect property values. Number 3, the District 68 Housing Stability and Community Preservation Pilot Act. You know, no one can predict when a life-altering circumstance will occur. In our district, there are families who, if they have an emergency that will cost them $400, they will be set back for months on rent, mortgage, or utilities. This pilot program will provide emergency assistance to our friends and neighbors to keep a roof over their heads, the lights on, and food in their fridge. Number 4, the Integrity and Voting Rights Act. This bill will confront the attack on our voting rights from a health perspective. The current laws are set up to cause voters' health to suffer while they wait in line, limit proximity to ballot boxes and polling stations. My bill will eliminate threats to health and make voting more accessible for all. Number 5, the Educational Excellence and Educator Support Act. We need to attract and retain our educators. And I think the best way is actually to start paying them at or above the living minimum wage. Yeah, right? It's probably the best way to do it. My bill increases starting salaries to $60,000 per year, which is the minimum living wage. And currently, what they're being paid is way under that. My bill also identifies the root causes of poor grade outcomes in our schools so that we can implement resources to address all of our students' needs as individuals, not as a collective group. And number 6, the Mental Health Equity and Access Act. District 68 and Fayette County as a whole have seen an increase in drug and alcohol abuse, overdoses, suicides, domestic violence, and other mental health struggles. We will form parent and student coalitions and collaborate with community support systems to help identify warning signs and provide resources to youth and adults, including our first responders, and destigmatize talking about mental health in our community. So what do you think? You guys ready for all this? All right. Some of you have been to my home, met me for a coffee, or maybe we've texted back and forth about your personal circumstances. I have valued our time together so much. Oh, we met at the doctor's office the other day. Thanks for coming, Keisha. I have valued our time together, and I will continue to. All of the conversations that I've had with you and will continue to have with you influence these pieces of legislation. Now, did everyone get your Ready Day One mug? Okay, they're on the table back there if you didn't get one. Now, just don't take the mug as a cool piece of swag, all right? It's not really, it is cool, but there's a bigger purpose to it. I want you to consider it an invitation to talk to me about what's important to you. If we have ever spent any time together, you know that at some point I always ask, what is the most important thing I need to know about you? This mug is an invitation to sit at my table or for me to sit at yours and build something beautiful, meaningful, and long-lasting together. Now, here's the part of campaigning I don't like, but Jared's giving me the death eyes. And he would not be happy if I hopped off this stage without asking you all for a donation this evening. Thank you. Hey. You can find pledge cards at your tables, and if you can donate, we are really grateful for your support. There are 4 candidates running to be the rep of District 68. I mean, I think I stand out from the crowd, but campaigns are expensive, and we need your help to reach the thousands of voters in the coming months with informational materials, signs, canvassing, and events. To those of you who have already generously donated to Team Ready Day One and helped launch our campaign, we are so grateful for your support. If you want to be part of the Ready Day One team, we would love to have you join us in whatever way feels good to you. We truly appreciate all the ways you can contribute to our team. If you can make calls, we need you. If you want to door knock, we need you. If you would like to host a fundraiser, we welcome that. If you want me to come speak to your friends, neighbors, coworkers, your support group, church, or school, and let them know that we're united in building a better, more affordable, more healthcare accessible, more inclusive Georgia, I will be there. And if all you can offer is a prayer for my safety and well-being through the campaigning process, please know that this is just as valuable to me as any other contribution you could give. Being your representative would be the greatest honor and privilege. We are living in tumultuous times where the seeds of division seem stronger at times than the threads that bind us as Americans who just want to feel safe, have our voices heard, and have our lived experiences validated. I want us to do more of this, looking at each other, speaking with one another, joining like this, and no more of this. We're not doing anything like this. We gotta get out and talk to each other. I really want us to start talking to each other again so that we can listen and learn from one another, remembering what unites us and not constantly what tears us apart. So you heard my story tonight, and many of you may know someone who experienced something similar or perhaps worse. But here you are, like me, after all of it, still standing. Now, let's stand together. Thank you.